I usually don't make videos about this kind of stuff, but the recent barrage of political ads I've seen and the staggering levels of hatred coming from one campaign compelled me to write this. So, this is all coming from this computer, by the way. Due to the convoluted nature of our presidential electoral process, only votes from certain states really matter. I have the pleasure, or displeasure, of living in Pennsylvania, perhaps the most important state in this upcoming election. I will be voting for Kamala Harris, and here's why. For some context, I was born in 2000 and I'm 24 years old now. When I was 8 years old, my classmates and I were pulled into our elementary school's gym and watched Barack Obama get sworn in on our old projector blasted against the giant gym wall. We waved little American flags we made in art class, and everything felt positive. It felt hopeful. Perhaps that was the youthful innocence of my age and nostalgia playing tricks on me, but I doubt I'm the only one who felt that way. I'm sure many adults felt that way too. 8 years later, when I was 16, I watched a man who proclaimed you could grab them by the pussy get elected. I had American history class that next day, and we discussed the results. And I asked my teacher, how could this guy get elected? How come this didn't torpedo his campaign? He had no good answer. None of the adults in my life had a good answer. It felt demoralizing. It felt ridiculous. I was a powerless spectator because I was still merely 16. 4 years later, when I was 20, I was able to vote. I lived in Maryland at the time, and it was actually my second time voting, since I'd voted in the midterm 2 years earlier as well. But I cast my ballot for president. It still didn't feel meaningful. Maryland was, and still is, a Democratic stronghold. I still felt like just a spectator. Then, a couple months later, I watched a mob of extremists storm the US Capitol, tear down US flags to raise Trump flags, and set up gallows with a noose outside of the very building where the work of a federal democracy gets done. I was horrified, disgusted, awestruck at how my fellow citizens felt that this was the appropriate response to an outcome that they didn't like. Perhaps it was the numerous lies about the election being stolen, where to this day, there is still no evidence of mass, coordinated, and effective voter fraud. Of course, those claims are only made in swing states too, never places like Texas or California. And if you're still one of the gullible fools who believes there was, please go down to your local courthouse, file a claim, and present some demonstrable evidence. I don't know. I have seen a Republican president win the popular vote for president once in my lifetime, and that was still 20 years ago in 2004. Maybe, just maybe, this country has been trending more liberal as the years go by. So I don't think it's that hard to believe that a conservative like Trump could lose an election. Do I think all Republicans are dishonest, corrupt traitors? No, absolutely not. Many of them are people with different priorities and values, which is okay. And do I think that my Democratic Party is perfect and fallible and completely without fail? No, of course not. We have our shortcomings and things to work on. Do I think if you support Trump, you are a hateful, spiteful, and ignorant person? Yes. Yes, I do. I will never understand how a billionaire, real estate slumlord from Queens, New York, who was caught discriminating against tenants based on race, managed to convince the working class that he's their champion. That the man who has never known hardship or struggle is just like you. His policies are dangerous, half-baked ideas that would cause chaos to our institutions and systems. Some of them serve to make the rich richer. Some of them serve to weaken our alliances. Some of them serve to limit your rights and are downright cruel. He was proud to provide tax cuts to our nation's richest. He was proud to work with some of the world's worst dictators like Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un. And he was proud to install Supreme Court justices that made abortion a state decision. Some states have taken that right so far that they don't even provide exceptions for rape or medical necessity of the mother. How fucking cruel is that? Not even for the life of the mother? I mean, what kind of sick joke is that? If we want to leave abortion as a state's decision, why not go further? Why not have it be a county's decision? Or even further, a city's decision? Or further yet, a neighborhood's decision? Or hear me out, a person's decision? Why are the options to this immensely important choice dependent on which arbitrary piece of land you live in? Why? And speaking of health decisions, let's not forget about COVID. I work in healthcare. I'm going to nursing school. I saw Trump butchered the COVID response. I was working on an ambulance outside of DC during the spring of 2020. I remember how bad it was. I remember how bad that winter was. And it was only exacerbated by his administration's lack of coordination, preparation, and ineptitude. More people died because of this ineptitude than needed to. He is a threat to this country. But don't take it from me. Take it from people who worked closely with Trump while in office. These next few sentences are pulled from an AP article. Former Defense Secretary Mark Esper has called him a threat to democracy. Former National Security Advisor John Bolton has declared him unfit to be president. And former Vice President Mike Pence has declined to endorse him, citing profound differences. His own VP can't even endorse him. His own VP. And to top it all off, his former Chief of Staff and retired Marine Corps General John Kelly says Trump fits the definition of a fascist. What more do you need to hear? But if that isn't enough, maybe the fact that he's a convicted felon might persuade you. I don't know, that's usually a big deal for a lot of people. Especially employers. I couldn't work my job if I was a felon. But what do I know? I'm just a 20-something-year-old. For a third of my life, for 8 years, Donald Trump has been in my news feeds, my conversations with friends, families, and coworkers, and directly impacting my life with policy and rhetoric. A third of my life. Enough is enough. I don't want to be dragged back into the past. I am ready to turn the page and move on. When I view Kamala Harris's campaign, I see sharp contrast. One built on hope and optimism for the future, and one of quiet professionalism. I'm sure a lot of older people know, but some of the best workers, professionals, and specialists I know are some of the quietest. They let their results and work speak for themselves. Kamala has led a somewhat quiet life, at least as much as you can as someone in the public eye for the amount of time she's been in it. She, to me, is someone who speaks, acts, and conducts herself like a quiet professional. I imagine a technically competent cabinet with her, experts to lead executive agencies, and someone who is focused on operating, maintaining, and improving our federal government. So with that, please vote this Tuesday, and encourage anyone you know to do the same. Because I am ready to move on towards not only my future, but this country's future. I hope you are too. Thanks for listening.